So my wallet is kind of feeling like Alderaan right when somebody said, "Hey, what's that black star in the sky?" Totally obliterated, it's in shambles. And I know the cause of it, of course. It's that G.I. Joe classified series, HasLab, Rattler. The funds got taken out of my wallet. I'm sure, like a lot of you, it was there, a nice hefty amount in there, and all of a sudden it's gone, Kaiser Soze style. But at least we'll get that Rattler late 2025. My immediate thought after everything wrapped up, another successful classified series, HasLab from Hasbro, was not all right. What figures am I going to get in the interim? Because there's been some cool classified series stuff shown. We got PulseCon coming this Friday, and of course, they're going to show some cool stuff. My immediate thought was, all right, cool. Now, what are we going to get next year for the Joes? Because there's been a really clear pattern with this HasLab classified series for the Joes. We get a Cobra ground vehicle with that massive mega his tank. Awesome. We get a Joe air vehicle with the Dragonfly to combat it. And then Cobra ups the ante, going to the air themselves with the Rattler, which means next up should be a Joe ground vehicle. I broke down what I think are suitable candidates for this next HasLab, and I'm already can't wait because I'm like every collector. I got something. Now I got my list out for the next stuff. So let's break down the viable candidates for the next G.I. Joe HasLab. Let's see what you guys think right now. What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles, welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. So, the Rattler was a massive success. I really think that Hasbro struck gold with this decision to go no Marvel Legends HasLab this year. I think everybody who was kind of on the fence, should I get this HasLab classified series Rattler, or should I wait to see what the Marvel Legends team is going to roll out with, came out ahead because it's like, cool. I don't have to set aside 250, 350 for some magical Marvel Legends set. I can put that extra money, that extra disposable cash to getting more Rattlers. And I think we definitely saw that because the Rattler with by Friday was about 550 backers short of that 18,000 threshold needed to get the Baroness, the third tier, the second figure in this thing. You can't shortchange those patches because they're really important. Anyway, got Baroness with no problem. And then we saw that surge that we've seen with basically every successful HasLab, where we start off with a really great surge at the beginning. They debut it, everybody who wants it right away, just so they can go first, second, 5,000, get it. And then it kind of teeters off, slowly progressing day by day. And in that last 72, 48-hour window, we see another massive surge. And this one was huge. So let's go into this. It finished with 28,096 backers. That's wild. And this was a price tag that was a little bit more expensive than anything else we've seen so far from the G.I. Joe Classified series line. So this thing was $325. Previously, the record before was set by that not the Dragonfly, the His Tank. And that had a price tag of $299. It sold 26,772, which is wild. So people are really into this line. Shocker. But the fact that the Rattler surged a little bit more, even past the His Tank, which I kind of thought would be the opposite, because most people have shelf space where they could stack a couple of His tanks, or maybe one in a DTOF, so you can go 3 deep with them, 4 deep if you use that top shelf. But the Rattlers are going to have a bigger footprint on your display, and I guess people's ceilings are going to be dancing with Rattlers soon enough. So that'd be really fun to see this fleet of Rattlers coming down on people's shelves, all their ceilings hung up by that fish wire, fish line. I mean, really exciting to see. And there are a lot of Rattlers that sold. So it's pretty crazy. It's pretty wild. Just for comparison's sake, the Dragonfly didn't set any records. It didn't beat out the His Tank. It was cheaper at 275, which was awesome, but it sold 24,764 backers. So what does that tell you? One, the classified series brand is on fire up in here. It's burning up. It's on fire. And the fact that there was no competing Marvel Legends HasLab definitely had some sort of effect, some sort of positive impact because people's wallets, their funds weren't being split between two of their favorite Hasbro brands. I think that really worked out. Maybe next year we'll see Marvel Legends return and something else, probably not G.I. Joe because it's still all the way up in terms of what they're delivering on that return on investment for these HasLabs. And that got me thinking, got those gears and wheels turning. What would be a really great, awesome G.I. Joe vehicle for next year's HasLab? And, the pattern seems to be pretty consistent. There's some really obvious candidates. And, I didn't go too far off from them, but I did throw in some just for fun, just to mix it up a little bit, in addition to the obvious ones that we should see in this thing. So let's break it down first up with this vehicle. And this one makes so much sense. I mean, the Mobat, we've gotten the His Tank, we've got the G.I. Joe rival for it with the Mobat, the original massive Joe vehicle, the motorized battle tank. I had this and I thought the remote control feature was so much fun. Steelers, another original Joe. I think this is an opportunity for the team to complete some more of that original lineup. Maybe they throw in Zap, maybe they throw in Short Fuse or Breaker in more of a retro version with the bubble gum and a clean shaven look. That'd be a really fun extra. But this makes a lot of sense because this is a direct counter to the His Tank. It even turns like a real tank. And I wonder if they would try to mess around and do those treads, have them movable, because the Mobat's not too complicated. It just needs to be relatively wide and large. Of course, we got to have Steeler. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Maybe we'll open up these two compartments here to have more Joes hanging out, or here, not on the tread itself. Put those other Joes there. We'll see what happens. But I think this would be an awesome, probably the most likely candidate for our next G.I. Joe classified series vehicle. But if the Hasbro team wants to take some chances, do some other things, got some more suggestions for them too. And this one I think would be a lot of fun. They've been knocking out a lot of characters from the 1986 lineup, and this is one of the classic signature Joe vehicles. Of course, I'm talking about the Havoc and Cross Country. And these pictures, as always, come to us from our buddies over at 3djoes.com. But the Havoc is a really massive vehicle. You see it's got that driver's or lane down gunner position. We've got Cross Country's turret section up here with the rising turret. That was cool. Got the jet sled. Such a cool thing. The Recon's craft for it. Very cool vehicle. And I love the Recon, but I think that's such a fun mini vehicle. And I think that's what helps make this a viable HasLab. Let's see here. We got a Hawk up in this part here. We got Daltone, who we know is coming. Lifeline still probably on the way. And then Cross Country. So whichever way you want to do it. But I think with this tread that moves at a different angle than this top portion here, the Recon. So the very first choice for options for the Joe HasLab has to start with my spoiler shirt, even though it's blue, and I still don't understand why they made it blue on this t-shirt. But anyway, it's the Mobat. This makes the most sense. It counters the His Tank. It's an opportunity to add another original 13 G.I. Joe member and Steeler. And if they wanted to, they could make the Mobat like it was in the comic book with sections where another gunner could go in there, an engineer like Clutch, maybe Breaker with the clean shaven look and bubblegum as an homage to the comic book look for him. But the Mobat just needs to be a little bit wider. And I think maybe it's like the size, the shell footprint of the Vamp and a half, maybe. And if so, maybe they play around and do those movable treads on the tank. That could be fun. The turn, of course, needs to move. But maybe this doesn't have to be the most ridiculously expensive HasLab. Certainly not 325 worth. But I really think the Mobat is something that is not only HasLab worthy, but just something we need to have in this line. For whatever reason, the classified series line wraps up. We need to have a Mobat just so we can get our Steeler, complete another original member of the Joe team. And then full shout out to the Mobat. So there you go. That's one. My second choice. And these pictures come to us, of course, courtesy of our friends over at 3djoes.com. Check them out. Best resource for all the Joe vehicles, characters, the figures you could possibly ask for. It's from 1986. That the Hasbro Classified Series team has been working diligently on filling out that roster, and I think this vehicle makes a ton of sense to add into that rank as well. It's the Havoc, the heavy articulated vehicle ordnance carrier. And this time it actually makes sense. It lines up properly with the acronym. And the Havoc, of course, is an awesome vehicle. It's got so many cool elements and components to it. It's got that recon sled deal, which is just a cool little hovercraft. That's fun. It's got rockets that fire, a machine gun coming off in the back end. We've got this big raising turn section. General Hawkins is riding on this one. Got dial tone with cross country in the inside portion, the canopy hydro lift section. I love the Havoc. I think that is such a cool vehicle. The different tread pieces rotate and move around separately from this gunner station. I love this thing. And I definitely think this is one that would make a ton of sense in terms of a worthwhile and worthy HasLab figure or vehicle. Cross country, of course, needs to be included with this. I have to do a little tweak to his belt buckle, but I always like cross country. Thought he was a fun addition to the team. And you can just see all these different elements to it, which are a little bit complicated. And I think that would make it worthwhile and worthy of full selection into a HasLab. So there you go. The Havoc, another really worthwhile vehicle for the Joes and another cool ground vehicle. Now we're going to move on to maybe something that a lot of you all probably don't consider as a necessary, essential vehicle, but I think this one is just fun. In addition to the 1988 roster, the Mean Dog. And this one is another massive vehicle that I think is only implemented through a rollout of the HasLab. And I'm sure there's some more popular vehicles that you guys might want, but I do think a lot of those now, since we're getting the Stinger kind of on our online retailers like Amazon, Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, I think it's really possible to get those size vehicles like the Thunder Machine, like my favorite, the Snowcat, available through that route, which means something like the Mean Dog would probably be best accomplished through HasLab. You can see it's huge, it's massive. I would imagine this is kind of like two Vamps back to back, and just in terms of the size. So it's big, it's not a small vehicle. Maybe this is like half a Vamp, and this is a whole other section of it. So you see, it needs more. The Mean Dog is three vehicles in one. So it definitely needs some space. We got your BHP armed recon vehicle. Very cool. Then you've got your rear arsenal featuring 12 surface to air missiles and a giant cannon. Very cool. Keep those there. Got Hardball, another figure I want to add to my lineup really soon. Then these jokers rotate around, and then the cannon actually comes out as a separate piece. Who needs the how? We've got this piece right here. Very cool. So the Mean Dog is massive, and it comes with wild card. If you read the comics, the dude was a klutz, breaking everything he touched. So this would be a really fun one because we kind of get three vehicles in one. Very cool. I think this would be a fun addition to our lineup, especially since we don't have a lot of characters in the 88 front in the 88 series just yet. This would be a very cool addition to that. Maybe give the teams more incentive to do characters like Repeater, Muskrat, Hardball, Charbroil. Just add them in there. Hit and Run. Still so many popular characters from that era to work into the mix. So I like to see that one. And another one also from 88, because they had a really good slate of vehicles that year. And another massive one that cannot possibly be done outside of the HasLab format. It is the Rolling Thunder. This is basically a little bit of a play set, but it's also huge and massive. I mean, the whole two lightning rockets, cluster bombs, it's crazy. It is just wild. The scope, the scale of this thing, so many missiles. It's like a massive attack vehicle. And I really love this. The turntable, magnetic array, radar, multi-missile air defense keeps the Rolling Thunder safe from Cobra air attacks. Very cool. Then it's got a deployable six-wheel all-terrain scout vehicle. Watch out, Ferret. Ferret's out. Cobra positions. Very cool. And it's over 3 feet long, back of the 3.75-inch scale. So just imagine how wide and how big this bad boy needs to be. Clearly a gigantic, one of your bigger HasLabs. I feel like this is one where people would get it and go, yes, all right, this is my big G.I. Joe vehicle. I don't need to get something else. I really like this one. Again, more characters from the 88 lineup in it. We've already got Shockwave, but he needs some company. Spearhead and Max, anybody. And then, of course, we got our Armadillo, the driver, even though he's named after another vehicle. Give him a break. But just a really cool thing. Like, look at this breakdown here on the back. So much stuff with the Rolling Thunder. And I think this would be an awesome vehicle. Check here for our scale for the classified series figures, how this would look. Just huge. So maybe this is not as viable as some of the others, but I would love this. And it certainly feels worthy of a HasLab price point. You don't have to make it all solid plastic. They can get away with making a lot of it hollow, and we could just work around it. Last vehicle from 88, because there's one more after this one. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. The Warthog, the amphibious infantry fighting vehicle. I don't know how much longer they've got Sergeant Slaughter in this line, but this is a really fun vehicle. And you can see it's got room for all these Joes, so it needs to be a little wide. So they kind of do similar to the His tank. Maybe they could use some of those treads. I don't know. Reconfigure, reuse some of those, that engineering for the Warthog. This is one that could work both as a ground vehicle and a sea one. So it kind of works both ways. Another excuse to get another Sergeant Slaughter in the mix before whenever he steps off from the license. But it's wide, it's massive. I'm really thinking this is a His tank size vehicle. If so, we're in for some major shelf wars in terms of space. So we got the two-stage torpedo missile set. Our missile rack holds up to 9 figures. Maybe if it holds up to 8, that would be fine. But I love this. I love the deal with the hatches. Got our machine guns here on this side, the grenade launchers. Started construction for rugged play, even for 45, 48 and up kids like me. This would be a really fun, wide vehicle. And again, they could kind of get away with some of the requirements in terms of making it really heavy. It does need a float, though, just in case I want to take it out to a swamp or a small stream by me for some photos. But I think they could get away with making a lot of this hollow as well, since most of it is really just these seats up here for Sergeant Slaughter and whoever else is riding with him. And of course, just your main section for your Joes to come out from in the bottom there. But this is a cool vehicle, another underrated later version Joe. And I know 88 saying that as a later version vehicle when there's still so many more characters and figures to come. I think this is on the waning edge of popularity for the brand for so many of us who started right from jump. This is a really great vehicle and one that I think would make for an awesome HasLab. Finally, I had to throw this one in because this is one that I never got. back in the real American Hero days. And I think this would be a really great one because, again, this one can function as both a ground vehicle and a sea one. You probably know because I've said it several times on HasLab wish list, talking about the whale, the 1984 killer whale, warrior hovering assault launching envoy. They stretched it for that one, but I don't care. This is such a fun vehicle. And again, I think this was another one. They can fake a little bit of the plastic. I don't know how to work this section here with the inner tube portion, but most of it is up top. We need our 4 turrets or 2 turrets, and then the section for Cutter and whoever else is riding shotgun. Then we get some more Joes in here in this section. I think maybe 4 would be enough. I'd be satisfied with that. And the whale doesn't need a lot of other stuff to it. And this one has like, well, I guess 8 because it's 2 here, maybe 6, and then maybe 2 in the middle. So there you go. Cutter, absolutely needed for the team, an essential character for the 84 lineup, which is just about done. Save the vehicle drivers. Him and Deep Six, really key, really essential members of the team. But this bad boy, I think, is really cool. Carries up to 9 figures. So again, maybe they don't need that many. 4 could work in this situation, but we need our little scout ahead cycle, surveillance cycle. That's what they call it. Then we got our sleds. So we can have Spirit jump onto it. Go. So that'll be really cool. I would love to get this in the classified series line. I think this is one they could, we've seen them lower the price point of a HasLab vehicle. We've seen them raise it with the Rattler. I think this one, maybe they could get away with it at a $350 price point. And I know it'd be really fun to add to the collection. So those are my suggestions for G.I. Joe ground, mostly vehicles to combat the His Tank, to combat the Rattler. Which ones do you want to see of these that I've mentioned? Or do you have one that you'd like to see that I didn't mention? So please, as always, let me know in the comments. And as always, I do appreciate all the thumbs up, the likes, the comments, the shares, and of course, the subscribes. Thanks so much for watching and tuning in. This episode of Files Figure Files has been filed.